Hey, what's up everybody? In this video I got a build that uses ice damage, meteors, and serpents mainly, along with Ray of Frost. So let's get right to the skills. Those are my three damaging skills. Ray of Frost, I'm using Snow Blast for the increased damage, Hydra with Frost Hydra, and Meteor with Comet. Now the three conjuration skills I have is Familiar with Icicle for the freeze and extra damage, Magic Weapon with Force Weapon for the increased 20% increased damage, and then finally Ice Armor with Frozen Storm. This creates a whirling storm of ice around me that does small amounts of damage, but with the gloves it has a chance to freeze and all that good stuff. So, and also it reduces some melee damage. For my passives, I'm using Cold Blooded for the extra damage from chilled and frozen enemies, Glass Cannon for the increased damage, Audacity for the increased close-up damage, and finally Blur for the decreased or increased defense. For my skills, or for my gear, I'm using Serpent Sparker for my main hand. Everything is, this is a Legacy of Nightmares build, and everything is ancient. So I got the Serpent Sparker for the two Hydras, Etched Sigil so that my Ray of Frost casts both Hydra and Meteor. But the thing about it is that if I already cast Hydras, this will not cast them anymore. It'll just cast Meteors. That's what's real nice about it, so it doesn't keep wasting it. For my gloves, I'm of course using Frostburn to give my cold damage up to a 41% chance to freeze enemies. This is very good for CCing enemies. For my shoulders, I'm using Mantle of Channeling, and this increases my damage by 20% and reduces my damage by 25% when channeling Ice uh, Ray of Frost. I have the Magistrate helmet, and this is so Frost Hydras now periodically cast Frost Nova. Great for defense, holding enemies, especially elite packs. You know, when they take a while, just cast your Hydras around top of them, and then they'll freeze them after, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 seconds. For my wrists, I'm using Steady Strikers, pretty much just for the attack speed increase, because that works really well with Ray of Frost. For my belt, I'm using Hurgbrash's Binding to allow me to use Ray of Frost indefinitely, for the most part. I also have critical hits grant 4 arcane power, so that's a big help. Without this, I would slowly lose arcane power, so those two combined, I could indefinitely use Ray of Frost, so as a primary skill. I have the Keela Cuirass for my chest, and this gives me a damage reduction of half whenever my resources are above 90. That's pretty much all the time. Sometimes it drops down below using 2 Hydras, but it gets back up pretty quick if I don't just completely spam Frost Hydra or Ray of Frost. Like I said, I have the Wailing Host 2-piece set that allows me to get a 1300% damage bonus along with a 52% damage reduction because of all my legendary pieces. And then my neck is just Squirt's Necklace for the stats. For my legendary gems, I'm using Bane of the Trap to increase damage against enemies under CC effects by 28%, along with slowing enemies that get nearby. So that is very helpful with this build, since everything that gets touched will be slowed or frozen. Bane of the Powerful, I gain 20% increased damage after killing an elite pack, and also increased damage against elites. And then finally, I'm using Ice Blink. Your cold skills now apply chill effects, and your chill effects now slow enemy movement by additional 21%. So the big problem with using meteors besides the lightning meteor is that they do have a time to hit. So enemies actually can get out of the way. But with this build, everything's slowed so much or frozen that that doesn't matter anymore, and they will repeatedly get hit by meteors. Also, enemies you chill have a 10% increased chance to be critically hit. So that's just, right now I'm at 40%, that'll increase it to 50%, so half the time I'm critting. Also, I have Nilfer's Boast Boots, which increases meteor damage by 100%, and when there's 3 or few enemies, 189, that goes up to 200 on a perfect roll. And for my legs, just placeholders. Depth Diggers doesn't help this build at all. It's just for the ancient bonus and the stats. Otherwise, that's about it. As you see, the only cold damage increase I have is from Frostburn with 14%. Otherwise, that's it. So really, I'm doing about 250,000 damage with my Ray of Frost, or 250,000,000 damage. For my Kanai's Cube, I'm using the Shard of Hate. Now, as you see, cold skills trigger Freezing Skull. So since I'm going to be using Ray of Frost, it's going to keep proccing Freezing Skull. and the freezing skulls do 250% weapon damage, but they also pass through enemies. So if you were wondering why I'm not using the what is it, the offhand, no, not mirror ball, I can't remember. Oh, I don't even have it up. Oh, maybe I do. Where is it? Well, anyway, there's an offhand that allows Ray of Frost to pass through, but the reason why I don't use that is that it'll do slightly more damage on groups of enemies, but using this, it will greatly increase a single target and also give me that group target because the freezing skulls pass through. For my gloves, or for my armor, I'm using Tasker and Theo, increases attack speed by our pets by 50, so that really helps with the Hydra damage. And then finally, Unity. Now, I could use Halo of Arliss. The thing about this, though, is that it does help with freezing people if you take more damage, which is quite often. You do get kind of squishy without several different things reducing your damage. I did try this, and you do get hit pretty hard if you use it. The thing is, though, is that melee attacks aren't too bad, and also you freeze a lot. I decided to go with Unity on me, my follower, and then give her a relic that allows her not to die. So that's an automatic 50% reduction. That just overall helps me. So let's go do a level 45 Greater Rift, and I'll show you how it works. So I'll buff up. Right now I'm doing 2.3 million damage, 50 million, well, 100 million toughness with Aquila Cuirass, and recovery of 6 million, mostly off a life per hit. So I should be able to clear this a little less than half the time. So what I'll do is I'll just put up my serpents, that's first and foremost, to where I want them, and unless it's single targets, but they're so powerful with this build that really that's exactly what you want to use right off the bat, because they're able to slow and hit so many enemies at once, and then you just essentially use your Ray of Frost to, as you see how much you're shooting off a Ray of Frost there, all that's damaging. So every one of those balls is about 250% damage, along with your Ray of Frost, which is 400, I think, up to 1,000% damage. And here is my first elite pack, and these guys burn down pretty fast because they just get frozen, and then I just annihilate them. So, like I said before, it is very powerful. Now, the damage numbers aren't huge, but the thing is you're hitting with so much, along with constant meteors. There's a 2 billion meteor hit. And then also the CCs are so powerful with the freezing and the great slowing that you have, that it makes it very difficult for anything to even hit you. And then on tougher enemies, they just stay frozen the whole time. So now I have not tried this on anything really harder. Now I know I could, and quite easily, because of the CCs along with the quite high defense, but you could go with a lot of ice damage increase, and it wouldn't be too hard to get up another 40% at least. But like I said, with these builds, I never try to go with ice damage increase. The gloves, of course, I wanted to use those because of the ancient 40% chance to freeze to give it more CC, and that's really the only reason. You can go with not Reinhardt, but well, Reinhardt wouldn't be bad. Thing is that it procs so infrequently that it doesn't help anything very much at all compared to the Shard of Hate with its increased group damage and single target damage that you get. That's why I just went with the Shard of Hate. Boy, that was pretty short. But actually, this is a very fun build. I really like it because of all the mechanics to it, with the freezing, the slowing, and then you got the Hydras that are quite powerful. I think they're hitting for about 180 million crit, but they constantly spray, as you see there, that mist, and that passes through enemies, so it hits entire groups, and it rapidly wipes them out without me having to do much. And then on groups like this, it'll Frost Nova using the helmet, and then that'll keep everybody frozen and in place for me to use a bunch of meteors and just drop them. So I highly recommend this. If you could put all the gear together, this is actually a very fun build. And very good for group group play because of all the CCs. It's always nice to have a good CC guy in a big group, especially against the tougher enemies. That way you could hold things in place while everybody else is able to do their thing without having to worry about dying too much. But really, you don't have to cast Arcane Hydra, but I recommend doing so because you'll just get more. You could place them where you want, and then on top of that, you'll get constant meteors after that. Now, the one problem I do have with this is that the meteors can get a little annoying, especially if you have the game turned up. Because they're dropping so frequently, the sound could get a little tiresome. It's too bad that they didn't have maybe a filter or something to change it or quieten it, but otherwise, yeah, definitely a badass build. I always like a good cold build. Really, cold is right up there with lightning for my favorite damage type for the wizard. It's just so hard to make a good build without a lot of different types of gear that, you know, really synergize together well. But right here you see the meteors will freeze enemies for 1 second once they're hit, and then everything else has a chance, especially your I think it's Ice Blink. No, Icicle. Familiar with the Icicle? That's each one of those has a 35% chance to freeze for a second too. So you'll be able to hold everything in place that you want with just a constant beam. As you see, I just put in my on big groups, I just slap out my Hydras, and then they're able to slow and wipe everything out, especially the weaker enemies. And then I just focus on anything else that's still alive with my beam. So in reality, I do like this one more than my tornado build, just because it doesn't have that grouping effect, so you do have to work a little more for it, but then you do have constant meteors too, which are extremely powerful for both freezing and sheer damage, you know, doing 2 billion damage on good hits, and then being able to drop them over and over again on frozen targets. It should freeze lock enemies once you get, once you're able to just sustain a beam on them. But yeah, the Hydras actually do huge amounts of damage for you. They're actually half your damage or more. Like you could probably credit them for a lot of your kills. It's quite amazing how powerful they can get. Like really, the fire's good, the lightning's pretty good, especially long distance. But really, the frost is where I find the best damage from Hydras. And we're about to fight the boss here. But as you see, the swirl too also really helps because that has a chance to freeze. And it's a little bit of an addition in damage. It doesn't do much. You know, what is it, 30 million crit? But still, that helps along with defense. God damn it. Thought I was going to get it there. You gotta watch me run. Watch me nay-nay. But, thanks a lot for watching my videos, guys. I'm really surprised that, you know, with how YouTube is, how much is out there, that, like, I even get views, because just things get lost in the sea of video game videos, and it's nice that people can find mine, and they actually, you know, people do enjoy them, my builds and everything. Oh, almost. Oh, there we go. So with the bosses, I'm just gonna essentially just find them, slap down Hydras on top of them, and freeze them, and then that's it. So it's quite easy to take him out. He can't really do much. He'll throw off an attack or two typically. And that's about it for the build. So thanks a lot for watching, and just make sure to like and or subscribe if you enjoyed this or anything else that I have up, and you're looking forward to any other builds that I have. So I should be having one come out here in the next few days, I'm thinking. So stay tuned for that. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.